Insulin Resistance and why it's affecting your health. So I have a Facebook group called Beating Insulin Resistance, and in there this week we're talking about brain fog and how it's affecting you and how it's linked to insulin resistance. Sorry, I got to get this thing moved here. Hang on, guys. My life, right? Well, we're just gonna live with it. So, everybody, I love when you ask questions. I thrive on giving you answers as I can with this whole thing. So, look, I talk about the brain all the time. I talk about a lot of things, but the brain needs glucose for energy. So, when we're not getting that glucose to the brain from a number of actions, whether it's the fact that the cells in the brain are just so resistant to insulin that they can't take it up, then we start having brain fog. We start ending up with things like Alzheimer's and anxiety and depression. All of these things happen as our receptors in our body get resistant to insulin. Wow, that's a lot, right? So, what am I talking about? Insulin is that one hormone that allows you to utilize the food you're eating as energy. It's not the only hormone, but what insulin's job is to take the energy that you've eaten in the form of food. It gets converted into glucose by your liver. Then the pancreas sends out this insulin as a carrier. To take the insulin takes that energy and delivers it to every tissue in the body. Let's not make any bones about it. Every tissue needs energy to grow and survive. Bone tissue, ligaments, tendons, your heart, your liver, your spleen, all of the stuff needs energy to stay healthy, right? So does your brain. So when we have too much insulin in the body because we have too much glucose in the body because our foods are imperfect, now we have this system where the brain starts to become insulin resistant and it doesn't take up the glucose it needs as energy. You end up with brain fog, you end up with fatigue, you end up with vertigo, you end up with Alzheimer's and all the stuff. So, my answer for everything right now, because it's been working for me, is to just address the insulin resistance. I call it the elephant in the room because insulin resistance is linked to almost every disease and disorder we have today. And if we can address that one thing, and then see what's left over, maybe we can start to really affect our health. So, is anybody on here suffering with brain fog, anxiety, depression, all of those mental health things? Because I was. And here's the thing I just had a conversation with a woman this morning who was, um, why I did the shame and blame video, you guys, is based on you and what responses I get back from you and the conversations I have from you. I did that video this morning because this woman that I was talking to was blaming herself as if she's lazy, as if she's wrong, as if there was something. I mean, and she used the word with her fatigue, laziness. You guys, if you're not given the right environment for your body to thrive in, how are you going to be healthy? How are you going to have normal brain function? How are you going to have energy to live? So you keep eating more, but then we have too much insulin and the cells are resistant, so you're staying fatigued. The real key is to get the insulin resistance under control so that you can. Sorry, this is imperfect today, you guys. I thought I had this in the right place, but apparently I don't. Um, there we go. We can move that now. All right. So, messing with things over on TikTok, my messy hair, having a crazy hair day because you guys, every time I get geeked out on science, my hair, I feel like the bad scientist thing. My hair just gets all kinds of crazy. But so I really want to talk about this brain fog thing this week because it's really impactful to most of us. And if you're looking for a way to fix it and stop blaming yourself as if you just are imperfect, right? Like I did all the shame and blame because that's what we get from the medical community. From everybody else is just telling you, well, if you weren't so lazy, if you just ate better, if you just did all these things, you wouldn't have these issues. And what if we turn that around and say, if our food environment hasn't been messed with, if our lifestyle hasn't been amplified in the point that we're stressed constantly, causing cortisol and whatnot to go up, maybe we would do better. So instead of blaming people, I want to give you guys real resources and real help to start getting better. So, why is it important to get this insulin under control? Well, and a couple of things that go on my page all the time are people talk about, well, I'm not diabetic, but I have those symptoms, but this doesn't apply to me because I'm not diabetic. And then people will be like, insulin resistance is not diabetes. Oh my gosh, I love you all, but please understand insulin resistance is the precursor to diabetes. There's a whole series of events that happen. You could be insulin um, resistant. Sorry, a message came in and disturbed me. Resistant for 20 years before it ever shows up as diabetes. But make no mistake, the insulin resistance has to happen first before it turns into diabetes. So just because you're not obese, just because you don't have the diagnosis of diabetes, doesn't mean that you're not insulin resistant. Now, I'm not going to say everyone is, but according to new studies, 93.4% or 93 point something percent of us are insulin resistant. Basically, only about 7% of us are metabolically healthy, and that's because we just have this imperfect food environment. People always be like, "Welcome to the U.S. and their bad food." Do I love the food environment we have here? No, but do you know that there are 3 other countries who are worse off with this than us? China's one. The UK is another area not doing really well with this whole thing. So um, the point there is don't just blame the US. Could we do better? Absolutely, we could do better. But it's not like I live in the UK, so I'm immune to this. This isn't what's happening to me. No, you guys, this is becoming a worldwide phenomenon, a worldwide problem. And so that's why I'm talking about it. Because the other thing is, if 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy, and then we add to that fact that insulin resistance is at the root of almost every disease and disorder that we have today, that's huge. That's impactful. That's why we're having problems losing weight, why we're having problems with brain fog, why we're having problems with hypertension and anxiety and depression. It just is at the root of almost everything. So ask me questions. I would love to answer them. I'm talking about brain fog because in my group, um, Beating Insulin Resistance, I went through a lot of the responses, and it seems that brain fog is one of the number one things that people are suffering with this whole thing that they're just wanting to feel better from. And it's not just happening like it happened to me in my 50s, but it's not just happening to older women or older men. It's happening at a younger and younger age, which is an indicator that it could be insulin resistance for you. So, insulin resistance can look like a number of things. Who's ready to understand a few ways? I'm going to spout off a few ways that you could tell if this is maybe you, so you can know if you want to start addressing it. Um, Marie, so there's a comment over here on TikTok that says she's type 2 and 2 of her daughters are type 1. So I have not gone into the link between how a type 2 parent creates type 1 children or any type 1 children. So let me do some research on that because that's spiking or sparking some curiosity in me how that could happen. But what I want everyone to know is whether you're type 1 or type 2, you can be insulin resistant. It's the same factor. So what's happening is we're eating food that's imperfect, that's been stripped of fibers and plant substances called phytosterols and all of these things that we need in our food to help regulate how that hits our system and how quickly it turns um, into blood glucose in our glucose in our blood. So with the absence of those things, we're eating food that's turning into glucose more quickly. So in a type 2, your pancreas is having to produce that insulin, and it gets to be higher and higher rates, right? So for type 2, you're stressing your pancreas and you're becoming insulin resistant. So the doctor's giving you more insulin or these other GLP-1 activators or agonists, which I'll talk about later. But uh, it's the same thing, except that type 1 can't produce insulin. However, we're eating these imperfect foods, right? So type 1 diabetics absolutely end up as insulin resistant as well if the food environment is not addressed first. So in them, their pancreas is just not producing the insulin. So they're getting injections or they're on a pump that's upping this amount of insulin in their body. Well, whether it's exogenous insulin or otherwise, when there's too much in your body, your cells still become resistant. So type 1 and type 2 can be insulin resistant. Absolutely. This is not just a type 2 diabetic problem, it's all of us. In fact, I have some stories. One of them is this young man, I'm trying to find it here, that has type 2 diabetes and, or type 1 diabetes, I'm so sorry. Um, and he's been able to get off of the quick acting insulin and lower the dose of his long acting insulin just by using the system that I talk about all the time. So I have it up over here on Facebook and YouTube. You guys, this is, oops, I don't want that one up. Let's fix this. So this is that young man. Okay, let's flip this. So 11 years old. This was him before. He's older than 11 now, by the way. But this is the before picture where he was struggling. Type 1 diabetic, gaining weight, insulin resistant, having all the brain fog and behavioral issues and all of that stuff. Hey, Jason. And this is him after starting the system that I talk about all the time. Lost, what is it, 35 pounds at 11 years old. And reduced that insulin load, is doing better in school, is doing all of these great things. So, um, I have family members who are type 1 diabetic as well, who are finding success with managing their type 1 diabetes much easier and lowering their load of insulin by doing the system. So, type 1 or type 2, it can happen. Have you ever met a type 1 diabetic who is gaining weight and has brain fog and body aches and pains and all of that? Well, it's not just the diabetes, it's the insulin resistance to this whole environment that we're in. So what I do is, and Jason here, are you at work, Jason? What we do is a simple system based on two real food products. You guys over on Facebook and YouTube, you guys ask me this a lot. I don't have my second packet here. So it's a tea I drink in the morning. It's a pre-meal drink that I drink before anything I eat. Now, what happens is this pre-meal drink that I'm having this morning, it helps shut down my hunger. I'm saying this morning it's 11:30. I ate my dinner at 9 o'clock last night because I was so super busy. So that means I'm gonna fast for about another hour and a half before I have my first meal. Why? Why would I fast? And let me finish about the products because I don't want to get into a big science event about them unless you guys want to know today. But so this goes in your body 10 minutes before you eat, and what it does is it creates a thick gel matrix inside your gut that helps encapsulate the food that you're eating and slow it down. So a couple of things happen. You're feeling full quicker, and you're slowing down that delivery of blood glucose into your system so that it's helping you not have huge insulin spikes because your insulin goes up to match the level of your blood sugar. You guys think about it. Have you ever been in a conversation with somebody who just keeps raising their voice and talking louder, and you feel like you got to raise your voice to kind of match their level, and then when you do, they raise their voice? And that's really what's happening with insulin resistance. We spike our blood sugar, insulin comes up, and it goes up here. Now we have, and I can go into it in depth, but now we have this thing oftentimes called reactive hypoglycemia, where we pumped our blood sugars up really high, insulin comes up, it does its job, now our blood sugars are low. So now our body says, ooh, I need energy because we used all that up and insulin's still out there trucking around. So now we got to put more sugar in. Now that goes up and insulin's got to raise its level. And it's just like this argument battle where sugar and insulin are just like raising to each other's level constantly, and you're getting sick because of it. So, what if we could lower that noise? What if we could bring it down to a point where we're not having that shouting match at each other with sugar and insulin, and we just are able to have a real conversation in our body. And so that's called metabolic flexibility when we're able to lower those insulin levels. Because guess what? Anything in the body, there's two factors to everything, right? Like there's a yin and yang in life, everything, a light and dark. There's a balance, a check and balance with everything in our body. So the balance to insulin is called Glucagon. So I want you guys to think about the fact that when you have high levels of insulin, what you have is this hormone that wants things to grow. So it's taking that energy that you have and it's shooting it out to every tissue in your body, every tissue as energy. But it's like a bully on the playground. It doesn't want to let anyone else out to play while it's out there. It takes precedence over you. Sex hormones of testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, it takes precedence over leptin and ghrelin. It takes precedence over all of the other hormones. The only one that can come close to it is cortisol. So guess what? We're sick, we're tired, we're insulin resistant. Our cortisol goes up. Now we have another battle. But insulin will not let glucagon come out to play, and here's why. Insulin likes things to grow. It wants to give you energy. It wants things to grow. So if something comes around that says, yeah, I'm going to take some of that energy away, insulin's like, nope, I'm locking the door. I'm shutting you out. I'm not letting you in because I worked really hard to create this energy in your body. So what we have to do is kind of like get insulin put to sleep so that glucagon can come out to play, because glucagon is a hormone that's catabolic. It wants to eat things up. It wants to use up some of that tissue and the fat, and it'll help get rid of some of the inflammation. All of the stuff in your body that needs to go gets held on to until insulin resistance goes to sleep, and we're getting sick because of it, and our gut microbiome is going off. So now when we lower the spike of the insulin, we can do some intermittent fasting, which is why I'm not eating until 1. Now glucagon can come out and start doing its job. So now I'm in this state where I'm using up some of those stores that need to go away so that my body can get better. There's a reason my skin looks better at 59 than it did at 52, and that's intermittent fasting and supporting my system with all of these amazing uh, tools that are supporting my body. Good evenings. Okay, I'm gonna probably say your name wrong, so I'm gonna try it. Zorita. Good evening. You're probably overseas because you're saying evening. So UK, South Africa. Where are you from? All right. So you guys, that's the gig with insulin and glucagon. Now back to the brain. When we have insulin resistance, I want you to think about the fact that your brain has these insulin receptors in it as well. So if the rest of the body is getting resistant to insulin, the brain does too. And when you don't get energy to your brain, now we have this whole thing going on of your body thinking that it needs energy. So when your body thinks it needs energy, does anybody know what happens when you need energy in your body? Your body makes you hungry, right? Because what's energy to us? Energy in this machine called the human body is food. That's why we eat food. I mean, a lot of us eat food because we like it, but in reality, food is there as fuel for us. So what we're doing is we're getting into the state where the brain is tired, it doesn't have energy. The body says, I need more energy. We eat more food. Only we're eating food that's imperfect, and now we've started that whole cycle over again. Is all of this making sense to everybody? So, brain fog really can be reversed by absolutely just getting the insulin levels under control so that your brain cells become more sensitive and can take up the glucose that gets delivered to the body and the brain, and now we have more normal brain function. When all of this is going on, we can't utilize dopamine and serotonin as well either. Now we have sleep apnea and anger issues, and the depression that has you crying every time somebody walks by. It's just insane. So again, this is why I call insulin the elephant in the room, because if you address the insulin and get that cleared out, is it going to solve everything? Probably not for some of us. But is it going to solve a number of things for most of us? Yes. And guess what happens? When your doctor's not fighting through all of this mess and all of this clutter in your body that's caused by insulin resistance, now they can see where things are really going wrong. Is the brain function really insulin resistance, or is it something else that's happening in your brain? Well, let's take care of the big elephant in the room. If the brain function isn't returning, then yeah, there's something else that the doctors need to look at. But how can they even find that? when there's this elephant really sitting on your brain. Like it just has to clear out. So that's brain fog and insulin resistance, you guys. I feel so much better since I've been taking the system. I know, as a little story, I had, by the way, wellness scores with this tea, the tea that I drink, the wellness scores there was a group of 30 people. They did a short study to see if it validated having a bigger study. So they took 30 people, they introduced them to Unamate, they had them drink it every day for 30 days. That group of 30 people, their wellness scores went up by 75% just drinking this. So the tea that I drink not only helps me with the fasting so that I can become more metabolically flexible and utilize both hormones. But it helps me uh, have the feelings of wellness. Now, about a week and a half ago, I was in a situation where I was inundated with negativity and attacks on me personally, very gaslighting attacks, and it was devastating to me. I'm a very sensitive person, y'all. I really am. So it was hard. Last week was hard for me, but guess what? The tea helped me through. And you know what? On the days where I literally forgot to drink my tea because I was so distraught over this, I noticed that my brain fog was worse. I noticed that I just didn't have uh, the energy that I needed. So I love the tea. I love what it does for me. I love how good I feel when I'm drinking it. And that's part of the thing, right? I'm not even hungry. It's 11:30. I'm not hungry. Good thing, because I don't eat for another hour and a half. Because remember, I want glucagon to come out. Does anybody want to see the scale? I'm going to show it to you anyway, because you guys, sorry, but I just can't get over my science stuff. Wait, before I do that, let's go back here. And I want to show you me before and after. I have a number of pictures here. Let's just go through them all before I start showing you the whys of intermittent fasting. So there's a few people here. My guy Jason is in here as well. I really need to expand this, but look, this is Dia. She's a cancer survivor. She's lost over 50 pounds. She improved her gut health, reduced her pain, and got her life back. And look at what a difference it's made for her. Was it crazy diets? Was it a bunch of exercise? Hey, you know what? Sometimes you guys on Facebook, I can't see your name. So if you put your name in for me, that would be great. I would be grateful for that. And Cape Town, South Africa. We do have the system available there now, but it does require uh, distributorship at this point. If you're interested in the system, then message me privately. I can give you the details on how to do that and see if it's a fit for you. But we can get it to you guys in South Africa now. So that was Dia, right? Now, here's Stephanie. Stephanie was always pretty, hey, Michelle, pretty lean, right? When I met Stephanie in person multiple times, and when I saw her, she's just this tall, beautiful, lean, vibrant woman, great metabolism, never thought she had any weight to lose, didn't realize she was suffering with depression and whatnot. But she was able to lose 40 pounds now. She went from a size 14 to a size 6. She's lost her belly fat. She has what she calls 4-pack abs. I kind of hit it with this graphic here. And her ADHD, I have ADD, she has ADHD. It's improved for both of us. This is Karen, and she lost 25 pounds. She's gotten rid of her sleep apnea, her heartburn, her chronic fatigue, her brain fog, and her mental health. Now, before I go to the next slide, I want to talk to you guys about something. When I say you don't have to be obese to be insulin resistant or diabetic, this is a good to me, a good indicator. Karen, to me, she was a little thick, right? And she felt uncomfortable. She wanted to lose some weight. She's lost 25 pounds, but if you look at her numbers, her A1C went from 11.5 to 6.5. Um, hey, Tammy. So Tammy over here on TikTok is saying she's been in on it 3 months. She's lost 26 pounds. Holy crikey. And 35 inches gone. And she's off of 2 meds and she feels fantastic. Tam, I need to get your info. I need to get you and highlight you as a success story. Can we talk today? So I want to give her like the bell, because that's freaking crazy. Tam, Tammy, how hard was it for you to lose weight before the system? and do all of that. She's off of 2 meds, 26 pounds and 35 inches gone from her body by adding 2 real food products into her day and not by adding medications. It's insane, you guys. So back over here. So remember, Karen's A1C was 11.5. It's now 6.5. Those numbers are going to be changing again because she's going to go back in. Now, this is Cindy. Cindy has now lost a little over 100 pounds. She was pre-diabetic, but her A1C was only 5.9. It's now down to 5.5, but she's gotten rid of hypertension, hyperlipidemia, inflammation, brain fog, and neuropathy. So how does this happen? How do you have somebody who's 100 pounds overweight and a very low A1C, and somebody who's only marginally overweight and have a really high A1C? Well, there's a number of factors. And if anybody's interested in how that happens, I can give you like a quick and dirty, but you got to tell me you want to hear it, or I'm going to move on. So, Tammy, remember 26 pounds down, 35 inches gone, has done every diet possible, never changed the way she ate, and never exercised. Oh, wait, she tried everything possible, but it didn't work, right? I'm assuming I'm adding this in to your comment. But she says she's not had to change the way she eats, or she hasn't had to go do extra exercises, and she's never felt better. Um, she's still losing and loving her life. You guys, it's real. So, Linda, let's talk about that. I'm going to show you a couple more slides and then I'm going to talk about that. But I want to get to Jason because Jason is one of my warriors. Now, Jason started out at about 463 pounds. So for him, weight loss was a huge thing, right? That I don't like to like highlight the weight loss all the time because this system is about getting you healthy. The weight loss is a side effect of you getting healthy, you guys. The weight loss will come as you start to get healthy. But his A1C was 13.3. I don't know if you guys understand how devastating that is to your health. It's now 6.1. He'll have his labs drawn again, and he should be back in normal range here soon. But his hypertension is down, his hyperlipidemia, sleep apnea, chronic fatigue, chronic pain. He was losing his eyesight. He's not on any meds. And this picture is old because he's smaller than this now. Jason is a rock star. He's amazing. And you guys, look out for Jason because he's going to get going. Well, I'm talking about the brain today, but this is the swelling in my feet. We're going to talk about that another time. And this is me, you guys. 2 years ago, that picture in the turquoise shirt, that was me in Cabo, and I was embarrassed. I was afraid to show myself, but it is what it is, right? So my A1C was 7.4. Now, I have this laundry list. This is only a portion of the things that were wrong with me, but I always tell people I feel like I got the list so that I could help other people, like because compassion is real, right? If you haven't suffered, you don't know. So here we go into this question of, yeah, Jason, little old you, he's about to blow things up. He's helping people in a very different way, but this man is going to have such tremendous impact. He already has. And I can't wait till he really starts stepping out and serving people by helping them get better. All right. Linda Mae Murray wants to hear why one person can be really obese and not show the signs of diabetes, and another person can be leaner, or some people not even fat at all and show diabetes type 2, type 3. All right, so here it is. This is a little sciencey. I'm going to try and break it down as easily as I can, okay? I was actually able to talk with Dr. Ben Bickman, who wrote, my favorite book. If y'all don't know, my favorite book in the world, Why We Get Sick. He wrote this book, and I geeked out. Uh, ooh, there's some people, like I love the Maverick movie, so I was going to compare it to Meeting Tom Cruise, but that's a tough one. Anyway, or The Rock, whatever, whoever. But I was geeked out by meeting Ben Bickman. One of the things he talked to us that day about was this thing with your fat cells. Now, how many of you guys have been told that you have the same fat cells you were born with, that you never create more fat cells, and that's just it? They blow up, and when they're blown up, they just keep growing and don't grow more fat cells. Because I was absolutely told that. That was just a reality. And I actually was at a clinic the other day, and I heard this doctor talking, and he said that very thing. Wow. So what Dr. Bickman explained sorry, I'm long-winded today, Linda, is that's not true. So it doesn't happen to all of us, right? That's why there's some people obese and some people lean with insulin resistance. Let's see if I can get into this. So there's two types of fat cell growth. There's hypertrophic, where the fat cells you have just grow. And then there's the hyperplastic, where your fat cells are multiplying and you're actually growing more fat cells. And guess what? Those GLP-1 agonists like Mounjaro, Trulicity, semaglutide, Ozempic, they create this hyperplastic system in your body where you're actually creating more fat cells. Now, let's back up a few steps. When we're insulin resistant, remember I said insulin is carrying that energy to your body, that food that you eat, and it's offloading it wherever it can. Some cells are taking up too much. Some cells refuse to take it up anymore. I get into all of that in different talks, but when insulin has filled up all the other tissues and they're like, nope, don't want it anymore, what our storehouse in our body is fat, right? So now it's starting to store as fat in your cells. Well, the hypertrophic type people, those fat cells get full quicker, right? So less energy storage. And now, when those fat cells are like, if you fill me up anymore, I'm going to explode. So I'm not taking any more of you. And they start spilling that glucose back out into the bloodstream. Now your A1C is going up, your blood glucose is going up, you're having lipid and cholesterol problems. And so now that's how somebody's thinner, right? Because they have less fat cells. Then somebody like Cindy probably has this hyper plastic type fat cell where her fat cells are multiplying. So there's more energy storage. So she's continuing to get bigger, but her A1C isn't going up because it's not spilling out into her bloodstream until she's extremely obese. And that happens for some people. Some people get really heavy before it shows up in their blood work. And some people are barely overweight or obese and it shows up in their blood work quicker. It's the difference of whether you have hypertrophic fat cells where you're not growing more fat cells, your fat cells are just getting over full. So less fat cells to fill up, less fat to show up on your body. Or the person who has hyperplastic fat cells where you're creating more fat cells. So there's more storehouses. So the person with more storehouses, right? You're taking more of that energy up. You're filling those storehouses up. They're continually multiplying. Now you're getting heavy, but at some point your body's like, enough of this. And that does start to spill out back into your bloodstream. That's why Cindy was 100 pounds overweight, more than 100 pounds overweight, and her A1C was still pretty low. And yet Karen was just marginally overweight, but her A1C was really high. Does that make sense to everybody? That's my little science moment for today. So that's what's happening. Why you cannot just say, I'm not overweight, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. So now that I've said that, do you guys want to know a few of the ways? Why are my feet up? I don't want my feet up for everybody to look at. All right. So do you guys want to know some of the ways? Because this is one of the biggest questions I get is how do I tell if I'm insulin resistant without a blood test? If you're so like, look here, I just said A1C, blood glucose, and lipids are not the best indicator of insulin resistance, right? So now what? Now, how are you supposed to tell if it's you? Well, there's a number of ways. I go over them. I'll do some more videos on this because I just realized you guys have so much content to make, and sometimes I forget how long it's been since I've done certain pieces. So I will do the 5 ways that Dr. Bickman talks about. You can tell if you have insulin resistance without blood work, and then there are some other ways as well. So I'm going to switch slide decks. We're going to take a look. But what happens with insulin resistance, if you have a number of these things, let's see, because I'm a very visual person, you guys. So bear with me. I'm trying to get these slides up here for everyone to see. So it makes sense. All right. So the 5 ways that Dr. Bickman talks about that I highlight a lot of these 5 ways that you can tell if you're insulin resistant, if you want to know this information, right? So number 1, if you have hypertension, you're likely insulin resistant. 95% of cardiovascular, sorry, 95% of us, almost 95% of us are insulin resistant. 95% of insulin or of hypertension is directly linked to insulin resistance. It causes it, right? There are a few other things, but that's only 5%. So I'm not saying all hypertension is insulin resistance, but damn near. So hypertension meaning high blood pressure. The other couple of ways you can tell are things like if you have these skin tags on your neck, on your elbows, under your arms, in your groin, even those are insulin resistance. As your body gets healthier and healthier and, and more insulin sensitive, those skin tags will start to go away. I had them all under my arms and in my groin, and they're all gone. They were all gone within the first 3 months of me doing the system because I'm not overproducing these skin cells called keratinocytes. So skin tags go away. Never had one cut off. Acanthosis nigricans, or that darkened skin patch around your on your elbows, your neck, all of that. I used to have dark skin patches. My elbow's been resting on the table all the way down to like here, and it was rough and scaly and dry. I don't have any of that anymore, and that's one of the ways I check my family and myself. Are we insulin resistant by those dark skin patches? That is a whole other action, but it's linked to insulin resistance. So then we also take a look at things like um, PCOS and erectile dysfunction are both linked to insulin resistance. Whew, I get a lot of people who get mad at me for saying that. I really have to get this information from Dr. Bickman in his voice and put it out there because he says that he thinks that eh, PCOS should be renamed as metabolic infertility. So you may have a propensity to PCOS, but it's not going to show up until you're insulin resistant. So I'm going to go over them again. Hypertension, skin tags, darkened skin patches, PCOS, erectile dysfunction. If you have any one of those and a combination of those, you're probably insulin resistant. Then there are some other things, you guys, that might tell you that you're insulin resistant. These are not as definitive, but they're right up there, especially if you have a number of them together. So that bulging belly, where you could be thin, you could be fat, you could be man, you could be woman, but your belly just is poking out like you're ready to have a child. Okay, that's insulin resistance. I'll go over it another time. If your triglycerides are high and your HDL is low, that's insulin resistance. Excuse me. If you retain water easily, have that edema, neuropathy, all of that, that's insulin resistance, most likely. Okay, so add all these up. If you start seeing yourself in a number of these things, the more of them you have, the more likely it is that you're insulin resistant. And here's my thing is address that insulin resistance. If it goes away, now you knew what happened without medications, without all the other things. And now you can actually address what may really be happening with you. So things like being constantly hungry, especially after you've just eaten, a low HDL, I'm sorry, low HDL, I already talked about. If you're constantly hungry, if you have chronic fatigue, if you have body aches and pains and migraines, those are all symptoms of insulin resistance. So if you can start linking a number of these together, like I have A, B, D, E, that's pretty strong indicator that you're likely insulin resistant. So take care of that and your health will start to get better. Then again, like, so I've had my gallbladder removed. And by the way, do you guys all know that gallstones are directly linked to insulin resistance and a cholesterol problem, right? So if you're having gall issues, it's likely that you're insulin resistant. If you've had your gallbladder out because you had it full of sludge or gallstones, you're probably insulin resistant. But now here's the thing. When they take your gallbladder out, the doctors aren't telling you that it's going to cause having your gallbladder out increases your risk that you're going to be insulin resistant. It increases your risk for gastritis and ulcerative type problems. It increases your risk for hypothyroid problems. It increases your risk for not being able to lose weight. So be careful. Make the best decision you can when you have your if they're talking to you about your gallbladder. That's off topic for today, but I just wanted to bring that up because I'm suffering from that now. They just said we have to take it. Your gallbladder's so full of stones. We're taking it, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'm going along for the ride. Let's do that. Now I'm having to learn to do a whole bunch of other things to help my health. So when I look at the reason why, like Cindy's lost 100 pounds and I've only lost 50, Cindy still has a gallbladder. I don't. Gallbladder, having it removed, can make you resistant to losing weight, but all the other symptoms that I had are better. So now we just have to figure out how for my body to work with no gallbladder and still lose some excess weight. So part of that too is, you guys, when you're looking at each other and you're comparing, so and so achieved this and so didn't achieve that or whatever, be careful because you don't know what else is going on with them that could cause them additional issues. And so, again, though, this is why I come back and say address the elephant in the room, right? I didn't realize that the gallbladder was causing me issues for my weight until I stopped and said, wait a minute. I lost 50 pounds in the first 6 months on the system. When did my weight loss stall? Like I've kept it off, which according to everything I've read is amazing in itself with the gallbladder gone. But I realized and started linking up the fact that my weight loss really kind of stalled about the time my gallbladder was taking out. And so there's that. But we're back to, I want to see, somebody said something over here. Oh, so Tammy, remember, 26 pounds down, 35 inches gone, off of 2 meds, says it's the easiest thing she's done and she's tried almost everything. Didn't change her diet, didn't go do extra workouts, all of that stuff. She also says in 60 days, her cholesterol went from 254 to 143. Because that's insane, insanely good. I have my fitness watch on. It's beeping at me. Well, I don't know why. Oh, but look at, I'll take it off. I'm going to redo it here. I did my blood pressure when I woke up this morning. This is, so 112 over 82 is what my blood pressure was this morning. Now, remember, if you're new to me, my blood pressure would go up to 180 over 150 every day at some point during the day. Did it stay that high all day? No. But the best the doctor could get it down to was 150 over 110. And I was on dual therapy to try and get that blood pressure down. Now it's 112 over 82, and I'm not on any medications. And I'm excited today, and that's what my blood pressure is. What? How many of you guys who are having blood pressure problems would love to not be taking any drugs that could be damaging other things and still have a normal blood pressure? Because, like, those medications, lisinopril and hydrochlorothiazide, and I can't remember all the medications we had tried on me, were not getting my blood pressure to normal range, and we were terrified. And yet now, no medications for 2 years. My blood pressure is normal. So what you can do, thank you. I get off track sometimes. What you can do if you're insulin resistant, number one, you guys, there is an ebook. I cannot show it on the Facebook, YouTube one. It's not letting me screen share right now. But if you go to the link that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen here at Linktree, just go to Linktree and type in Coach Misha Fayant. There's an ebook I'm going to show you guys over here. It's called 6 Simple Steps to Managing Your Insulin Resistance, right here. So in my Linktree profile, there's a link, and I'll send you this book. So that ebook talks about the 6 simple steps that I talk about all the time. So those 6 simple steps are these. Let's get it over here on the, you guys, I feel like I haven't ridden a bike for a while because I haven't been on live stream, but I appreciate your patience. All right, let's get into it. 6 simple steps. And now the ebook covers these. It gives you more detail on them. You'll get emails with like great protein sources, coconut or fat sources, all of the stuff in the ebook. It's free. I don't sell it. It's just, I want you guys to get healthy. So if you can do these 6 simple steps, and then if you want to make it more sustainable, you can do the system. So my 6 simple principles or 6 simple steps are these. Fiber first before you eat, every time you eat, because you want to slow down the delivery of that food into your system so that you're not spiking your insulin, right? Then you want to, all right, we're going to switch this around. I promise I'll do it today. Prioritize protein. Now, protein is going to spike your insulin a little bit, not near as much as carbs would. but it's the most satiating of the food types. So you have macronutrients, you have fiber, fat, and carbohydrates. So carbohydrates spike your insulin the highest, but even in that, there's differences in how they spike it. Proteins spike your insulin, but not near as much, maybe half as much or less than carbohydrates do. And fats only very minimally spike your insulin, so they consider it non-insulin spiking. It's so minimal. So you want to fill with or prioritize protein so that you stay satiated or full, feeling full longer. And then you want to fill with fats. So fats for me are things like coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, and the animal fats. I don't take the skin off the chicken. I don't take the fat off the meat. And one thing that Dr. Bickman talked to us about is this. You actually, because I asked, you actually have to have fat when you have protein. Your body doesn't like to metabolize protein without the fat. And if you're not getting in enough fat when you eat protein, a couple of things happen. The protein just gets off gassed and pooped out, basically. And so you're not getting the absorption of all the protein you eat. The second thing is the cell that surrounds the muscle is built with fat. So if you're on a low fat diet and high protein, that that membrane around the muscle gets brittle and it can burst. Anybody heard of rhabdomyolysis? That's what happens. Your muscle just, especially when you're adding creatine, gets so big and puffy and it breaks that cell and now it explodes. So prioritize protein, fill with fats. Fats getting a bad rap started with Ansel Keys, what, 60 years ago? There was no scientific data behind it, and scientific data is showing exactly the opposite. You're not going to have a cholesterol problem or a lipid problem from eating healthy fats. So stay away from trans fats. Those are the ones that are causing problems. And I can talk a little bit about fats in a bit. So I don't, it's not an app. I'll go over the watch in a second, you guys. So I'm going to get through the rest of these six. Control your carbs. You guys, last night my dinner was this. For lunch, I had some chicken skewers, some bell peppers, and a little bit of mashed potatoes. I love my mashed potatoes and I love bread. I'm not going to give them up and I don't have to. For dinner, I had 2 eggs scrambled with some Canadian bacon, some was it Munster cheese and on some butter bread toasted, and that was dinner. So not a lot of carbs, but the bread was my carb. I just limited. I don't have a lot of other carbs in there. I have some more peppers. I'm picky with vegetables. I'm not a huge vegetable eater, but I try. So that was my day yesterday. So limit carbs just means that I'm not having a big bowl of pasta with all of this sugary sauce on it. I'm limiting that. I'll have it once in a while, but not all the time. So that's my day. Control the carbs. Do I still have ice cream with my grandson or birthday cake or wedding cake or all that? Yes. I just add the fiber in before I eat that stuff and it helps slow down the delivery of sugar. Then I watch the clock, which just means intermittent fasting. I say 16/8 all the time. I forget not everybody understands that. So 16 hours of a fasting window. I keep my eating and my food intake in an 8-hour window. Neither one of these products break the fast. So I drink my tea in the morning. If I'm really hungry or have an acidic stomach, I may have a balance all by its own. And then I stay in that fasting window and I'm good. So since I ate dinner at 9 last night, I won't eat lunch until 1 today or break fast at 1 because that's my 16 hours, right? So then from there, I try to keep my eating in that 8-hour window. I'd like to get my window back down to eating closer to 6 p.m. So I'll titrate that back today and eat my meals closer together and then stop eating earlier. Hope that makes sense. Now, the one thing that I hadn't been talking about, and I think it's really important, and it was pointed out to me by many people, is move your body. And I'm not talking about lifting excess amounts of weight or going and doing cardio for an hour. I'm talking about get off your butt, take a walk, especially after you eat or dance around a little bit. Go get up and do your chores, but just move your body because muscle cells that are active are open to insulin and they're more insulin sensitive. Now that energy that you've just eaten is going into your muscles instead of just being stored in your fat. If you eat and you go lay down, you're getting it as fat. So fiber first, prioritize with protein, fill with fats, control your carbs, watch the clock or do some intermittent fasting and move your body. Now, about my watch, you guys. There is, if you go to Linktree, I have a page called My Recommendations. I'm going to show you guys over on TikTok. Um, there's a lot of things that I use that people ask me about, so I've created this page. It's just called My Recommendations. And so when we go to that link that's in my Linktree, the watch is here. And I think I'm not sure that they're offering it, but it will send you to one that's comparable. That watch is not an app. It has my blood pressure, my blood glucose, my blood oxygen levels. It does how many steps I do, my heart rate. It has a number of functions in that watch that I just wear. And for my purposes, it's accurate enough for me to be able to track that I'm staying in a healthy range, right? It's like I'm not going to have 150 over 110 blood pressure and this read it at 112 over 82. So, and then I do take some bile now to help with my gallbladder. Nobody told me about that at first, but you guys, if you don't have a gallbladder, taking some bile a couple of times a day is really healthy. I can talk about that on another one. But look, the books that I talk about, Why I Get Sick, the Diabetes Code, the Obesity Code, there's links to all of them here. As well as, hey, there's my book I wrote. Um, I'm writing another one right now too, and then all the glasses I wear. So I'll add to that list as time goes on, but that's where to find the watch if you're interested in that. Um, over on TikTok and or on Facebook and YouTube, you guys just use my link at linktree.com because that gives you all the links to my world. There is a link to a page called My Recommendations. The watch I use and the ketone tester that I use is all on there. So I love the watch because I never want to be that sick again. I never want to go back to that place where I was just sick and miserable ever again. So um, I manage these things. And like in the morning, especially you guys on a day where I've had extra carbohydrates, I kind of panic. So I'll take my ketone tester out, and it's a blood ketone tester, not a urine ketone tester. Urine ketone testers are crap for what we're trying to do. Okay. So it's got to be a blood ketone tester, and I can tell you why I test my ketones and don't worry so much about my blood sugars if anybody wants to know that too. But this ketone tester, I'll test in the morning and make sure that there are ketones present in my blood. If I had a high carbohydrate meal when I wake up in the morning, the ketones are very low. That gives me an indicator. And then like even if I'm having breakthrough hunger, if I wake up in the morning and my ketones are high, I'm like, okay, I can have something. But if my ketones are low, I'm gonna wait because that means the ketones go up. The ketones mean glucagon is present in the bloodstream. Ketones present in your bloodstream also means the absence of, I can't get my graphic back up. It means the absence of uh, insulin in your system. So insulin, when you have ketones present in your system because you went through a short fast, your your glucagon is out. The minute you start spiking your insulin, those ketone levels will go down. Okay, so that's why I test my ketones. All right, guys, it's been close to an hour now. So your ketones should be 0.3 or higher. Now, if you're really wanting to do fat loss and have that autophagy going on, autophagy being where your body's starting to utilize those skin cells that need to go away, some of that extra tissue that needs to go away, your ketones need to be at 0.5 to 1 or higher. 1 is better. So like actually, you guys, because of all of the other issues that I've had with health, um, the system has like cleaned up so much for me. But I really want to continue to address getting better. So I have a trip up to North Idaho and Washington this next week. When I get back, I'm going to do an extended fast. Jason, if you're still on here, how long did you fast? Um, so if it's 0.2 or lower, Michelle, then you need to wait a little bit longer, right? I try to get mine to at least 0.5 before I think about eating again. That's me personally. But so I do use this monitor daily, and this one tracks my blood sugars. So and they're close enough, you guys. When I say that, I had one person who said, "Well, it's off from what my continuous glucose monitor said, and I get that. Is it going to be as perfect from here as it would be from direct blood source? No. But I had a physical exam in January for insurance purposes, and they checked my blood pressure. I did my blood pressure on the watch just before they checked mine, and they were almost spot on with the blood pressure. The blood glucose was within just a couple of points US of where the blood glucose was in the blood work that came back. So for me, that's pretty darn accurate. I'm just going to utilize the watch for those things. So, yeah. So Michelle, anybody who wants to do that. And by the way, um, look at if you want to do intermittent fasting as an extended, like I'm going to do at least 3 days of fasting, and then we'll see how well I do if I can go past that. Please check with your doctor first. I'm going to say that. I do what I want, but that's my life, right? You guys, please check with your doctor before you do extended fasting to make sure that you're in a space where you can do that. So I've done 10 and 12-day fasts where I only utilized the system. So the tea kept me feeling full, the balance helped. I also wanted my gut working just a little bit so that the refeed syndrome wasn't so bad. So I used the balance because it does not break the fast. It's fiber, but it doesn't spike your insulin. So my ketones actually went up when I took the fiber in a fasted state, which was interesting. Dr. Bickman gave me a reason for that, which I can post later. But these two products is all I use when I'm on my fast. My fast is about keeping my insulin levels low so that we can get in the state of autophagy and hopefully reach some of those fat stores and some of that stuff that inflammation and stuff that's in my body from being 59 and not taking care of myself like I should for years. So that's why I do intermittent or in long-term fasting once in a while. I only do it maybe every quarter. Um, but look, we used to do that kind of fasting a lot. I'm Native American and I grew up, our genetics came from an area where we had plentiful food in the summer and not so much in the winter. And so our bodies were used to fasting. And Dr. Yao, another one that I'm listening to and reading now, talks about gene eating, where some people do better with fasting for those purposes because that's the way our genes are structured. So I just feel like it may be a healthier way for me to stay metabolically flexible, but it may not be the way for everyone. Okay. So you guys, it's been a pleasure. I feel like it's been forever since I've been live. I'm trying to find that time and flow to get back on here and help you guys. If you have questions, ask them to me, you guys. By the way, if you go to the Linktree link, the link to get into my Facebook group where we talk about all this stuff, I'll be going live in the group to answer questions about brain fog and whatnot this Thursday. And I'll be going live in there every Thursday. It's just a great place for support and to ask questions and to get help. So thanks everybody for joining me today. I'll see you later here on TikTok. I'll be back tomorrow.